Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Man in the Middle. This is the show where mothers meet men in the middle to talk about their sons and find solutions and exchange resources and all of the above. My name is Ab Judah. I'm the host for the night. We got Veracity, who is our moderator extraordinaire. And we have two people who are new to the stage. This should be interesting. We got first our co-host from the Better Baby Daddy Club, John, who is a co-worker of mine. And then we have Miss Lavondra here, who is also joining us for the first time. So let's give everybody a round of applause. Let's get this conversation started. So we got two others who may be joining us. So if that happens, we'll just roll them into the conversation. So the topic for tonight is, finding the balance between being a parent and being a friend, right? But before we jump into the topic, right, can we get like a little bit of just a background story of Lavondra? Maybe we could talk about your introduction to parenthood, and maybe about your son, and then we'll go to John, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I love talking about my sons. I have three sons, ages 19. One is turning 18 January 6th, and my youngest is 13, turning 14 January 11th. So I am not your typical mom. So my two oldest boys are my bonus boys. I've only had biologically have one son, and that's my youngest. But I've raised the older two since they were 5 and 6. So it's been it's been a blended series of events and blended family things going on. But nonetheless, those are my boys. So been a mom for a while now. But it's been amazing, and I love them so much. All of them bring a certain type of joy to my life.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love to hear it. Then, John, if you could just give us maybe a little bit about your background and what interests you in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have two daughters actually, so they're 10 and 6. And parenthood has been a lesson learned at a day at a time, right? So you go through and you think, oh, I figured something out, like I got this, and then you realize that's not exactly how that works. And you gather advice and information from people, from books, from podcasts like this, and you apply what works for you, and then you kind of throw away what doesn't work. It's been an amazing journey. Having the opportunity to raise two beautiful daughters has been something that I never envisioned myself traveling, but it's been an amazing journey thus far. So looking forward to what's coming next as well.
Huh? Next? Meaning?
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever happens next.
Oh, I thought
on their journey. No, there's nothing. There's nothing on the plate.
I thought you was announcing something, bro.
No, not no,
It gave soft announcement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Well,
It really did.
yeah. Let me rewind that then, because we're not going there at this moment. That's not happening.
All right. So the conversation, kind of for me, kind of was brought about by a conversation that I had. Everybody knows I work in the school system with middle school age young people, and I had a conversation with a parent a couple years ago, and her son he was experiencing some challenges. We'll just put it like that. So I had a conversation with him. I mean, with his mom. She was asked to come in and shadow him for the day. I had been speaking to her via email, but we never met in person. So we met, and I pulled her to the side, and I was just asking her like what things was she seeing at home that maybe we could find some remedies for. And she was just basically telling me like she struggles she struggles to discipline her son because of the position that she put herself in as her son's friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a lot of empty threats. It was a lot of I will. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna do that. But it never, actually happened because of their dynamic, right? Like he didn't really take her seriously. he didn't really respect her as an authority figure. Right, she was always she was raising him, and I think he had other siblings, but she was always calling somebody outside the house to kind of like push her son in a specific direction. So it was almost like he don't really have the respect for you, right? So that's kind of like where the thought for me with this topic was born. So it's, that's I just wanted to let that be known. So like that always stuck in the back of my head. So like my question first and foremost is like, what is a friend? Like, how do you categorize a friend?
Well, I know for me, a friend is someone. You have different relationships in your life. You have the romantic relationships, and then you have the platonic. Even people say your soulmate could be your friend. They don't necessarily have to be that person you're romantically involved with. Yeah. So I feel like a friend to me is someone who you have a connection with on that friendly basis, and I don't. Not your kid. So I'll say that. I will say that.
Yeah.
I think, if you don't mind. So I like to separate friends into different categories, essentially. I have my 3 a.m. friends, like something pops off, I can call them at 3 a.m. They go pick up the phone. I got those dudes. And then you have friends that are more, they're removed from that inner circle slightly. And they might, you could call them at 7 p.m. to help you move the next week, and they're probably not going to show up anyhow. Like, then you got those dudes. And then even further out, people that you just associate with. So, we would put coworkers into that group. Mm-hmm. But as Lavonda, am I saying your name correctly?
Lavondra with an R.
I'm sorry. Lavondra said, it's someone that you share a certain type of dynamic with, whether it's romantic or those romantic friendships in a sense, right? Or the platonic category of a friendship. But it's someone where you're going to share, depending on that level, anything from very intimate things to casual things with, but not there's that separation with your children has to occur on a certain level. And I think people build that, unfortunately and unknowingly build that friendship with their children too far by oversharing with their children.
I also think I want to just jump there, Abby, because listening to you both speak, I kind of like run the gamut of perspective. For context, my son is 19. And I think that the problem is, as you put it plainly, Abbas, like, what is a friend? I think a lot of times we confuse being friendly with this person is my friend. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, good parenting is in the pivot. Me and my mom are friends now at almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we blur the lines between being friendly and having a good, open, loving, amicable relationship with our children. But I think particularly when kids are small, in that age, Abbas, that you're speaking of, where you're having parent-teacher conferences, kids need structure and discipline. So it's less about her being a friend to her child and more about not being consistent in doing what she says she would do that is causing him to not respect her authority. I think sometimes we blame, like, oh, I shouldn't have been his friend, but children don't need a harsh taskmaster either all the time. So there is a balance.
Yeah, I think that's important. You kind of brought me to my next point, but John, I see you wanted to say something. Go ahead, please.
I think like by the time they reach the age that we start interacting with them, Ja, if that foundation hasn't been established, like that dichotomy between how I'm going to interact with my personal friends and my children, if that hasn't been established, by the time they get 13, 14, 15, you're going to run into a gambit of problems that you're not going to know how to handle, or you're not going to be capable of handling. Because as you just described in your story, like now she doesn't know what to do. He doesn't take anything serious because at 5 and 6 years old or 10 years old, there was this blending of storytelling or story sharing or emotional sharing or whatever it was that she did with her son that just enabled a certain type of behavior and actions from him.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
I think also, and V, you kind of led me to my next point, so I'll just go here, and then we can start with Tierra. Tierra, if you could chime in. So the conversation we're talking about like balancing friendship and parenthood with your kids. So the question I want to ask is like, are you guys friends with your parents at this point in your life? Tierra. So I'll start. So me, right? I've never considered my mother a friend, right? Like, this is somebody that I love with all my heart. This is somebody that I cherish, I respect, I have nothing but respect for. But I've never confused her for a friend, right? Like that was very clear from like with the time I was young up until now. And I talked about this last episode, like now, like me being like closer to 40 is now when I'm starting to see, or she's starting to see me as like somebody that she can have certain conversations with. And then now it's becoming weird for me because I'm not used to it. Like, what was this? Where was this? Like, I didn't see it as like a person, like, so to see it now that we're like not equals, but like to see us have conversations that are, that you would have with a peer almost, kind of like very interesting. So I wanted to hear your opinion. Like, what is
I definitely feel the same way about my mom. Shout out to the Almost 40 crew. I think all of you say that. So, 86 baby right here. Last year as a 39-year-old. But even going into that, so I don't see my mom necessarily as a friend. Honestly, I see her our dynamic is I'm now her parent. So I'm parenting my parent at this point. So, but we are very friendly with each other. We can have conversations now. We've gotten to the point where it is not the provider over a child. I've proven myself that I could handle myself out in the wild in the world. And we are more so friendly. We have friendly conversations. We can joke and play around with each other. She could probably still put me in a headlock. I'm sure of it. But it doesn't give that friendship dynamic, but the respect definitely has grown. Because now I see my mom more than a parent. I see her as a woman. I see her as a human being, as an adult, as opposed to what I was looking at her as a child.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I don't think you usurp one for the other. I don't think you go from being a parent to a friend. I think you're always a parent. And then you get to a stage where you are also a friend. Me and my mom also have like homegirl moments. And then she'll be like, I'm your mother. Who are you talking to? And I'll be like, oh, okay, girl. But the dynamic has definitely shifted. Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I never have thought of my mother as my friend. I think my friends is we have these shared experiences, shared things that we do, things that we enjoy together. My mother's not watching a football game with me, really. You know what I mean? We're not doing those type of things.
Do you have a relationship with your father?
My father passed away over a decade ago.
Okay.
So yeah, our relationship was.
Because I have a theory with that. Like my brother and my father are just getting to the friend aspect. But I don't look at my father as my friend. But I do with my mom. So I think it's kind of like that same sense. Like my dad is my dad is my dad. There are things me and my mom will be talking about, and then we'll be like, shh, here you come. Like he's still always a parent. Whereas my mom went to Vegas with me and my homegirls to see Usher. Now, did she make it to Dreas? No, she didn't make it to Dreas, but she did do everything else,
Yeah. I think that's interesting because I did not grow up in the household with my dad, but we had a relationship, and it wasn't until I got older where we kind of sat down and had a conversation, hash things out. I do consider my dad like the fun parent. And so I do consider him my friend. My mom is more so the person that lays the law down. I can go to her and get advice, sound advice. I think I more so go to my dad when I'm like, all right, let's plan a trip. Like, let's have a good time, or if I want some unserious advice where I'm like, I want someone to side with me instantly, I can go to my dad.
Yeah.
I kind of never gave my mother especially, an option to be friendly with me. Like she didn't have an option. Like I was gonna make it so that she didn't like I'm dapping my mom up, like you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, yo, like she don't have a choice. Like you didn't have a choice
Yeah.
to be somewhat friendly with me. I'm sorry.
Ab, that also makes me think of Tina's dad, who we most recently had out at Bullpen. Like, he's absolutely the homie.
Yeah.
He's who we call when we're going to the bar. So I think it depends on your initial dynamic with your parents, period. And then that sets the tone for like where it grows or evolves to.
I also
Yeah.
think that it has a lot to do with the fact that even if you talk about your relationship with your mom or T's relationship with her pops, it's like y'all were doing the right things for the most part, right? So like they didn't have to necessarily. It felt like they didn't have to necessarily have their foot in y'all neck, so they could like kind of be like, "Whew, I don't gotta really think about them too much. I can still be a person around them." I think that plays a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
T,
Yeah.
if you are you good? Hold on.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Nope, still can't hear it.
Okay. Sorry, you guys. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, y'all. Hey. So I kind of the record the audio was messing up, so I heard a little bit about the parent. If I'm cool with my parents, basically.
Like, yeah, would you consider your friends like a parent?
So my mom. I think someone just said like they're a parent to their parents now. That's me with my parents now. I have a crazy family dynamic. I don't know if I think I shared on the last podcast I was on, but I found out my biological dad wasn't my biological father when I was in the 3rd grade, but he still raised me, still took care of me. So we've always been cool. That's been my dog. Like, you know, my dad was the person who showed me how to put on a pad. Like we have been in the trenches together. The last couple of months, I think I shared too that my grandmother passed, and our dynamics have changed. But it's also, like I said, me parenting them now. Like, what y'all doing? Y'all raised me to be like this, and now y'all out here wilding out, you know.
Right.
My mom and I, we're very close. I can share everything with her, but I see where I understand motherhood because of her, right? I'm understanding a lot of stuff that I'm going through now, and I'm seeing her in a different light. But I think that parenting, I don't see her. I don't want to say that on here like that, but you know, I go elsewhere to get my parenting from. Let me say that. You know, but my mother raised me, so I know everything I know came from my mom, if that makes sense, you know. But we're friends. I can talk to my mother about anything. I can talk to my dad about anything, but at this season in their lives, I think that I can't get the advice I need from them, if that makes sense. It's just a cool environment.
Gotcha. All right, so I want to throw a clip in here so we can kind of get everybody's reaction to it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick.
I feel like it's so dope being my kids' friends. And I know a lot of the old school people be like, oh, you cannot be them kids' friend and this and that. Listen, that is so fucked up to feel like that when it come down to your kids. Like, I feel like if your kid want to smoke, if your kid want to drink, if your kid want to have sex, if your kid want to have a boyfriend, if your kid want to have a girlfriend, if your kid get into some trouble, get into some shit, whatever it is that don't have anything to do with necessarily being successful or doing the right thing, I feel like your kid you should be the first one your kid call. You should be the first one your kid count on. You should be the only one that your kid trusts, okay? And I'm so glad I built that foundation. I was 15 when I got pregnant with my daughter. You feel me? My oldest. I was 17 when I had my son, got pregnant with my son, okay? And it's like, when I tell y'all, like, it feels so good to know that I'm going to be the one they call. Like, literally, I'm going to be the one they call. And they know, right or wrong, I'm going to come. Right or wrong, I got your back. Nobody else can tell me about my kids on the streets before my kids tell me about them. Because it's real, it's genuine, it's my reality. Like, I think it's so important to have a relationship, a friendship with your child. I think that every kid needs a friend and their parent, because they experience their first heartbreaks. Everything they go through it in the home, but it has something to do with the outside world. Imagine not being able to tell the person that you lay up in the house with, that you share a home with, how you're feeling or what you're going through. That gotta be some fucked up shit. And it is some fucked up shit, because I went through that. You feel me? Like, I went to my friends for everything, and that was the biggest mistake that I could have ever did in my life as a kid, was run to my friends who was hurting, who was going through stuff, who didn't care. Like, nah.
All right.
All right.
So I feel like a lot of people, especially like in our generation, have that like perspective on it, where it's like we grew up and we couldn't relate to a lot of us couldn't relate to our parents. Like, we didn't have that relationship. We couldn't go to our parents with everything. So it's kind of like a lot of the stupid, understandings that I had, I learned from people my age. So they didn't have no life experience. They was giving me advice. I didn't have any life experience. So it's like the blind really leading the blind, right? And because I didn't have a friendship dynamic with my mom, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable always going to her with certain things. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's where V was coming from a little bit, where it's just like, I want my son to have a relationship with, to be comfortable enough for me where he can come to me with uncomfortable things, and I'm not going to scold him and bash him for it. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is no manual to parenting and no necessary right or wrong way, but there is perspective and there are proven things that work. I think everybody has a different home situation. Everybody also has, every child is different. So, when I listen to the video, I'm like, that's beautiful that she has this very open relationship with her children where they can share. And I mean, like, having a friendship with your child, yeah, that's great. I think that there may be other situations where you can be friendly with your child. Like, I have two brothers and I have an older sister. We all have very different experiences. And we all also were treated based on what we needed at the moment. So I think it's very different. I think her also mentioning, like, I had my son at 18. So she also grew up with her children. There is a shorter gap. And so that also probably informs the way that she parents. Again, I don't think there's any wrong way. I just think you have to pivot when you need to pivot. You may need to put them on punishment and take away things and set boundaries and set ground rules. And then you may need to have a very open conversation. But I'm interested in how you all feel about the video.
Well, I'll say this. I am a firm believer in the saying that I'm not your little friend. I'm not one of your little friends. I had my son when I was 25. So I was a little bit older. I was a little bit set into my career. Like, my family grew up in the church. So, I have a little bit more of an old school values type of way with raising my kids, but with a twist of modernization. Because growing up with both my parents, there wasn't room for me to be honest about my feelings. There wasn't room for me to feel like I can come to them and share things with them and being comfortable with that. I make that possible for all of my sons. I make that possible. Like, now, will they do it? It depends on what that moment is, because their dad is also in their lives as well. So them being boys, they more so go to dad before they come to me. But I create a space for them to feel safe to come to me. But there also, I feel like, needs to be a separation of parents. And yes, you need to have actual friends that y'all go through experiences together with.
Yeah.
I don't want him to get everything from me, because just like my parents, I don't know everything that's going on with the kids nowadays. I may not be up on it, especially with technology. I grew up with AOL, so it's like, it's a little bit different now. So I want them to have that little bit of freedom as well.
I'm completely on board with what you just said there. I like to think of my parenting style as a little 90s mixed with a little, 2015s, 2020s. They need to know that my foot can go somewhere, but I'm not going to actually put my foot somewhere. You know what I mean? Like they need to feel that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I didn't have my first child until I was 30 years old. So I was well into my career. I was, I wouldn't say I was mature as a man, but I was on that, and I was on that trajectory. And I can't imagine, and although they are younger, they are 6 and 10, I can't imagine them being my friends. But one of my biggest things is always providing a space for them to come to and talk to me. So ever since they could talk, we would have conversations, and they probably didn't even know what we were talking about. But we had those conversations because there's going to be times when they're going to need to, self-regulate. But I also know there's going to be times when they need to co-regulate with me.
Absolutely.
So my daughter, who's in 5th grade, we're driving one day, and we're going to talk about boys because we're going to talk about it now. So in 10th grade, I'm not hearing it from somebody else. So yes, but I still don't view that as a friend dynamic. And my question, if that the woman from the video was here, is how do you create boundaries that allow you to be a disciplinarian as well when that time is needed? Because it sounded like it was all lovey friends. Like we're going out. It's Friday night. Let's go do some things. And I could never see myself in that vein.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like everyone has been saying, it's definitely levels to it. I feel that all my children are able to come and talk to me. Sometimes I don't want them to talk to me, but I'll be like, hold up, let me close my ears. But I am a single mother, so I have to deal with all aspects. I'm dealing with it by myself. So they do talk to me about a lot. And even if they're not talking to me, I'm watching. So I might ask a question. Something that's very important in my household is honesty. I take that very serious. So like if they don't bring something to my attention, maybe because they don't think that I'm really paying attention to it, or life just be lifing over here. If I bring it to their attention, I think that's something we need to talk about, and that's something we're going to talk about. But as far as the boundaries, I've definitely had to set boundaries. I know I wasn't able to tell you guys. I do have 2 boys, a daughter, and I have a nephew I'm raising. So my son just turned 18. He's in his senior year of high school. I have right, yes, thank y'all. I have an 11-year-old boy, a 15-year-old nephew, and my daughter is 9. So I'm going through, like when you guys were talking about the differences in their stages and how you have to parent each child differently. My oldest son, we on the ball, like we already went through the trenches. He know who I am. He knows that I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be caring. I'm going to be understanding. But it's boundaries to everything. In the world, yes, we're adults, but we still are held accountable for our actions. So I instill that in them. So they know it's just certain stuff they know not to even be participating in, and don't bring it to me. But I do know that we live in a world where it's more accessible to them. A lot of stuff is more accessible to them. So I think you do have to be able to let them know that you know about it and you're aware, like you're hip to it, but putting the boundaries in place about it, making sure that they know that whys, because that's what I was about to say. We have those conversations. I'm honest with them. I let them know what's going on, but I'm also like giving them the pros and cons to life. Like, look, if you do this, it's more studies showing that you're gonna be on the corner with Unc if you do that, and over here, mama ain't do that, I'm a little thick, but I ain't like that, so I try to make it relatable to them. But I do think that it's important for you to build a healthy like friendship with them. I think if it's no friendship, they're not going to talk to you. If it's if it's just straight motherhood, huh?
No, go ahead. You're right.
Straight motherhood, like if I'm just always, just so hard on them and telling them like not to do this, not explaining why. I think that's what was the problem with my mother and I when I was growing up. You know, it was more so like, just don't do it, or being afraid of me doing it instead of showing me how to do it. You know, because that was a lot from what me and my friends talk about, you know, growing up in the 90s and stuff like that. And our parents just saying no instead of showing us. Like, so I'm still having a hard time with going out because my mother didn't let me go to go-go's. Even though I understand why she didn't let me go to it, it didn't allow me. I think somebody was talking about how having your friends is important because you learn how to grow too. And I didn't have that part. So I do let them mingle. I let them do things on their own so I can see where they need help. So when they get 18 and 19, you know, they're good in the world. So I think that it is important to have those boundaries, to have the right people, the right support around you so that you can be successful.
For sure.
I think also, hold on, Ab, I want to get to your next question, but I also think just the things that we're all talking about, I agree with like the points that everybody is making. But I think for the purpose of whoever is watching, like there are a few factors that go into this parenting thing. Single parents may parent very differently than people with two-parent households, or you parent very differently when your children are younger, like your daughters, versus when they're older. So again, that kind of pivot and this dance that we're all towing at the various stages of parenthood. But I think there's some good points being made.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Like I know my mother used to always, and I think I heard somebody say it earlier. My mother used to always be like, when I was younger, she used to be like, just don't lie to me. Like, I don't care what happens, just tell me the truth. Like, tell me the truth. You know what I mean? Be honest with me. You know, don't, whatever it is, whether it's uncomfortable, whether you're embarrassed. And, you know, I bought it. So, like, I remember an instance where, like, I did something I knew I shouldn't have been doing. I had no business doing it. I did it. I got caught. It was brought to her attention. Well, it wasn't brought to her attention. I brought it to her attention. And then she spazzed on me. I'm like, yo, you told me that if I kept it 100 with you, you would be like, you would work through it. And I told you, and you spazzed on me. I'm not telling you nothing no more. Like, I can't.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Like, you told me I would be good. Like, I'm not good right now. You know what I mean? It took a long time for me to like work my way back around to like telling her like the whole story. You know what I mean? From that instance, I was probably like, it had to be like 4th grade. I was probably in high school until I started coming to her and telling her, all right, this will really happen. Like you don't tell me like, be honest with you, I get you back, and then when I tell you, you spaz on me. That's crazy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, you know what I mean? I think that because my 4th grader, I have a 4th grader now, right? That's the 9-year-old, and she can. I was just listening to. She was on FaceTime with all her friends, and I like came into the FaceTime because she talked to them on my phone sometimes, so I was able to get on the iPad and listen. So I'm listening to it. They're like, "Oh yeah, your mom lets you, how do you get in trouble, Journey?" She was like, "Well, my mom just talks to me a lot, you know. She doesn't beat me on anything." So I think too, and I mean that was a lot. If I have to get to that point, right? Because I'm not being funny. The Bible says, right, like if your child is if you don't beat them, the world will. You know what I'm saying? They'll have hell on earth. So like if I have to beat my children, I'm not gonna lie to you guys on here. I will, but it's the last resort, you know. But I do talk to them a lot. And my sister and I were just talking about it this weekend about how my sister would have rather take a beating versus getting talked to. Because my mother would make you want to go kill yourself, right? With just talking to you. So, but my children, so when you said that, I was just thinking about that for myself. I'm like, I wonder if my children would rather just get a beating or, you know, have that conversation. But that's something that's very, like, once they get in trouble, if they do something, I'm the parent that'd be like, okay, you did this. Well, what made you do that? You know, we're talking for hours. They're like, dang, man, like I should have never did. But I'm making you think. You know, I'm making you think. So that I think that's a good thing. I don't think that I bash them because most of the time, if you listen, you let them talk, you can understand why they did it. You know, you can get to the bottom line of it. And I think for me in my life, I try to make my kids understand that mistakes gonna happen. You know, once you learn from the mistake, once you do it, you realize how it wasn't the right thing to do. you learn from it. If you don't learn from it, it's no longer a mistake, right? It's a choice.
It's a decision.
So I try to teach them that. I want them to make mistakes while they're young, while they can be protected, you know, versus being an adult. And that, like my oldest son, he's 18 now, and you know, I have to always reinforce to him the times we living in, and you know, carry what I've already taught you. You've already been through minor things of, you know, being profiled. You know, when you go into the store, you know why I tell you to do certain stuff now. You know, and so now with you being an adult, you know the whys. You know not to be offended when somebody asks you, "Did you buy that?" or "Do you have a receipt?" Just give it to them because you already got it. You know. But you know, like I said, it just comes with trials, you know.
Yeah, I got another clip that I want to play, and just to get your opinion on it.
Nothing to do with them liking you. Your kids have to learn. We're not friends. You know, once you decide you want your child to be your friend, now you're worried about them liking you. That's right. And there's so much of parenting that has nothing to do with them liking you. Your kids have to learn how to live in their unhappiness. They have to learn how to live with unfairness, and they have to learn it in their house. Their first bout of unfairness can't be at school, you know, or when they're 30.
Yeah.
Come on, Michelle.
Yeah, I definitely, I really respect that. I think that is a realist way of looking at parenting. And I'm very real with all my kids. I'm very real with all my kids. There is one child out of all three of mine where if I were their age, I would be their friend. The other two, not, you know, just because our personalities, I know but I'm real about that. Two of them, I'd be like, you know, you associate maybe, you know, but friend, yeah, I know which one. But also too, I think that we have to, as parents, start looking at our children as human beings. I think we kind of miss that point, that these are little human beings who are eventually going to go out in the world and they're going to make their own decisions. They're going to make their own mistakes. And as gut-wrenching as it feels, because I had a 6'1" size 13 shoe, dark-skinned 13-year-old, and I live in Virginia. So, and his majority of his friends are white or Hispanic. So I have to teach him, me and his dad have to teach him certain things, but we know for a fact that there are 24 hours in a day and we cannot protect him those entire 24 hours. Right. So in order to make sure that he makes the right decisions, or at least have the options to make the right decisions, I treat him as a human being, I don't even want to say a little adult, but just a human. So I give, you know, just like she said, they learn that in the household. Life is not fair. You know, if you don't ask for it, you don't get it. So if your brother asked for the last cupcake and you're wondering why you didn't get one, well, why didn't you ask? You know, you got to speak up for yourself. And now you're at school speaking up for yourself because you remembered you wanted that cupcake last night and your brother got it. So there are things in the home that they will learn in a whole family dynamic, especially if you have more than one child. But learning those things in home, they're definitely a lot safer. But yeah, let's just look at our kids as human beings first, and then as, you know, our little babies.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that also the part where, you know, we talk about like learning things at home so you don't have to learn them in the world first, right? Like that's where, you know, me and John, we kind of intercept. We meet a lot of kids that like their first time learning some of these lessons is in our building, right? And that's like a huge responsibility that a lot of times, you know, people don't understand, right? Like this is their first time learning this, like ever, right?
Right.
You have to be, and I take that I really take that really seriously, and I can see it in the moment. Like in the moment, you can see when this is the kid's first time hearing something or first time seeing something from that perspective, and you got to be like aware of that, and you know that in the moment, because that can make or break how they see certain things, right? Like if you give it to them in a way where it's just like I had a kid the other day tell me that, hey, you know what? This school thing ain't for me. I'm just gonna drop out. This is not really where I want to be. It's boring. Why am I here? So I'm like, oh, that's what's up. Like, what's your plan? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, tell me how this is gonna work out for you. So I asked him to break it down for me.
Right.
I'm just gonna like be a mechanic and like, I'm just gonna like fix cars. I'm like, have you worked on cars before? He was like, nah, but I'm just gonna learn. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then like what else? Like, where you gonna live? Like, how's it gonna go? I don't know. I'll just figure it out. Well, it just sounds like you don't really have a plan, bro. Like, it sounds like you're just talking right now. Like, if you had a plan, I'd be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Because school isn't for everybody, right? If we can be honest, right? Like, school, the environment is not for everybody. Some people work better in different environments, and I don't think that you should hinder somebody or tell somebody not to go in that route just because it's not the traditional way to do it. So with that being said, like I told him, like, hey, if that's something that you think is worth your while, just do some research on it, right? Like just do a lot of research on it, but give yourself some time. Like wait some, you're 14, 13. Like you don't know what you have no idea what you're talking about right now. You're just talking, right? So give yourself some time. You still feel like this in 4 years, maybe 3 years, maybe something here that I don't know, but right now it just doesn't even sound like you have a plan. But again, like interactions with them are sometimes the first time that they hear these things.
Yeah.
So it's important to teach them at home because you might not run into guys like me and John in your with your kid. Like you don't know how many people interact with your kids per day. Like I tell parents all the time, like meet your kid's parents, meet your kid's people. The people you don't know who interacting with your kid. Like these people are spending hours a day with your child, and you have no idea who they are.
And what they teaching them, because that's another thing too.
Right. Yeah. Like, you don't know anything about these people. Like that's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, a perfect example of what you just said.
No, go ahead, John.
Okay, so John, I had called a parent and he said, oh, well, please excuse my son's behavior. He's not used to the structure and discipline of the Maryland school system. And I thought to myself, he might not be used to that, but what is he receiving at home then? Because obviously there's no structure and discipline occurring in the home. And then, also with that point that you made, like these are the people that now you're just trusting the school system to provide something, and you don't know who those people are in the classroom that are providing whatever, or you're trusting society to provide him with structure and discipline outside the home. And we know how that turns out many times.
Yeah.
Yes, I
think also just listening to everybody talking, listening to the Michelle Obama clip, I was thinking about my son's name is Khalil. I always wanted to name my child Khalil. And I remember when I was expecting, Khalil actually means a good friend. And I think it was really important to me that I didn't have the luxury of tagging somebody else in on the parenting experience. So I needed to be locked in double time and get this thing right because I only had one shot. And I think that just today, there was an older woman who was in a meeting of mine. And I said something about my son's birthday being Sunday. She said, oh, how old is he going to be? I said, he's going to be 19. And she said, oh, he's grown. And I said, he ain't grown. Yeah. And then I kind of caught myself because I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm being rude to the elder. But grown means nothing to a mother. And my aunt would always tell me, if you start calling them grown, they're going to start acting grown and then you're going to have a problem. And so I think, for a lot of people who know me, like they know that me and my son have a great relationship. He's super aware and he's super like a good, solid kid. He's not, introverted. He's very extroverted and, but he is a very well-balanced kid. I also stopped spanking him at 5. So, and I chronicled it on social media. So there are people who will still walk up to me and be like, "You spank your child yet?" But it all stemmed from me going to see Dick Gregory, and Dick Gregory talked about how he never beat any of his 10 children and that he never allowed the wife to spank them. And he was like, you can't, if you beat them, one, it creates a situation for what they tolerate. And two, it's going to get a stage where you just can't do that. And a lot of times beating is the lazy way out. This is Dick Gregory words, not mine. If you need to pop your child in the back of the neck, I am not against that. Okay. I'm just saying he was talking about how we've been conditioned to take the easy way out in parenting, in order to get our child to learn, retain, understand a thing. And there is going to come a time where they need to know why they shouldn't do something without the threat of being hit. And what you want to do is raise them so that when they get in the world, they have those skills. So I think, to Michelle Obama's point and to the point that you all have been making, parenting is a very serious job. And those stages, they go by so quick. So it's like you have to be their first teacher. You have to be their first friend. When I think of friend, I also think it's the way that you look at friendship. Like I know John was like, I just can't see my daughter, me going out with them. I want you to come back in 10 years and tell me about it, Fred. If you go to the club, I want you to come back and tell me about it. Because
ain't
I
happening.
also never felt like that until me and my mom went to Vegas together during the Usher. So I think, things change, and it's always like a very beautiful experience, whatever stage you get to with your parent or your child. And I think that that is what's most important. Like, please don't let your child run over you. Be a parent. But I remember just wanting my child to be a good friend. I wanted him to be respected. I wanted for him to be admired, and I wanted him to admire people. And I didn't want to bring a child into the world that was going to be hard and be closed off or guarded. And I don't know why that was the thing that I was thinking about, but all I kept thinking was, if I'm gonna have a black man, please let him be nice and kind. And please let him take the road of least resistance. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I think that even with both of the videos with Michelle Obama, I think that it's what you think as a friend. Some people
Yeah.
probably think a friend like they get to wild out, but even for me, even with my friends, I still have boundaries and I still have value. So with your friends, so that's why I say that I would rather for my children to like see a friend in me, because like you said, the stages do change, and I want them to always be able to know, yes, I birthed you, I did what I had to do for you, but I pray that my season change and we'll be in a place where I won't have to continue to parent you the way I am. Hopefully, I'll always be a mother, but hopefully I don't have to do all that I'm doing now, if that makes sense. I think it was a
Yeah.
saying a while
Right
ago
now
that
I'm a
said,
coach.
right. Yeah, I always say
Yeah.
it to my boys, because I have boys and they play sports and stuff. I'm like, look, we're a team. You know what I'm saying? Y'all the players right now, and I'm the coach. I'm dictating the plays and stuff, but it'll change one day if you listen to the plays and you get your touchdowns now. You get your scorecard up and you'll be able to know how to maneuver and be on the field, But also you had said something about you said something, but it made me think about like friendships, and it not always been what Michelle was saying, I'm not your little friend and stuff like that. You get that, like, no, I can never be called your friend. I'm always gonna be your mother first, But
Yeah.
it been for me when I first had my first child, I was 18. I had just graduated I actually walked across the stage giving my senior year with my son. And I remember saying like what I wanted. I didn't want him to be a a knucklehead out here or anything like that, but I wanted him to have a safe place, right? I wanted to be able to be a mother to him where he could be successful. I wanted to work hard for him to have the things that I wanted him to have. But it was certain things that had to be instilled in him, you know, about being respectful, about being a man of his word, you know. It was just certain things. So that's what I think about when you go out here and you pick a friend. I think somebody was saying I wouldn't want to be a friend to some of my children, and I get that because you still nurturing them. You don't want them to be out here being, you know, untrustworthy or just even being. Sometimes my nephew, he Jones his behind off. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in your group because I'm not that friend. I'm not the friend that likes to Jones. I like to knock you upside your head. So I wouldn't be in your group, you know. So you just learn, like, you know, you watch them and you learn what how to, like you said, guide them and, you know, make it where they're successful in the world, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I agree with part of what both of you all said, but just to kind of hold steadfast in my own opinion, and this probably goes towards your question as well. I think that there always needs to be a separation. I personally don't feel that as a parent, you need to show friendship within your relationship with your child. But also too, I am one of those people, I am not big on titles. So I feel like that you have specific, people have specific needs out of specific people. I'm okay not being a friend to my child because I know I'm going to be a good mother to him. I want him to always look up to me. Like he can get those attributes from me without me having to be his friend. Now, is he going to experience that in other friendships as well? When he does, or if he does, I would like him to kind of relate that to his mom or dad, saying, hey, my mom and dad treats me like this, or we have conversations like that, and I feel comfortable. Not once is he thinking like, oh yeah, me and my friendship mom and friendship dad. No, that should be totally separate in my opinion. I am a mom. I would love to be a mom to my babies for as long as, you know, I'm around. Those are my babies. But I know for a fact that they're going to need friends because, you know, well, friends that understand them, and they're always going to need a parent to guide them. There's two separate things, and I'm going to always make that separation apparent. We are not friends. I'm your parent. I'm your mom. Yes, I'm here for you in any capacity that you want, but my title is mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more with what you just laid out there. And you know, coming as a dad of young girls, like I think that separation is very important for me. And I know that you had alluded to, well, come see me in 10 years. I'll see you in 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I won't be out with my children. And it's just the simple fact of, I know what I do well, I don't go out anymore. I don't even drink or nothing like that. But I know what I did when I went out, and I'm not doing that with my children.
Yeah.
So, and even when I do go out now, you know, and I also don't want to blur boundaries.
Yeah.
Even if they're 25, 30 years old. Now, if they invite me to a function, I'm going to come out. I'm going to enjoy that time with them at that function. But I also don't want to be the dad. It's like, hey, look at me over here. I'm your dad. I'm your dad. I'm your dad. I'm your dad. I'm not going to be that individual either.
Yeah.
I believe very strongly in boundaries in regards to that. So I'm just not. That's just me. I'll be a source of wisdom. I'll be a source of insight. I'll be an exemplar. They're going to see what I'm doing and how I'm behaving, and hopefully catch as much as they can from me through my actions. But that's it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I'm not going to be friendly with them, that I'm not going to engage with them, that I'm not going to have great times with them, because we do all those things as well.
Yeah, I completely understand. I agree. I wanted to kind of ask, did you all, and this is for everybody, did you grow up in a two-parent household? And then are you parenting in a two-parent household right now?
So I did not grow up in a two-parent household, but I grew up around two-parent households. Both my grandparents, maternal and paternal, marriage until passing away.
Mhm.
But my kids, we for 10 years, me and their father lived together. And we recently separated 5 years ago. So I have my child, my youngest, and then the older kids are with him. And now we are at the point where when my son gets a certain age, he's going to move in with his dad. I'll get the oldest, and that's going to be my roommate.
Okay. And what about you, John and T?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a single parent household. It was just my mom and 4 kids. And then I am a single dad, and I have full custody of my youngest, and then I have partial custody of my oldest.
Okay. And T?
So I grew up in, my mom was married, so I had a stepdad. That's what I was saying about the dynamics. So I grew up in a 2-parent home. And I'm a single mother of, like I said, 4 children. So, but
yeah. Okay. My degree is in sociology, y'all. So I love a little human behavior. Like, let's figure this out. Because I think we're just having such great conversations. But like, my parents have been married for almost 40 years. They're still together. And I am a single mom, like not single and I have a dad, like completely single. There's no, you know what I mean? So I think that again, I think there is no right or wrong. And I think that every situation is unique. And I just think you parent, the best way you know how and the way that you were informed. I think a lot of how we grew up informs. So I have a 2-parent household. I'm very close with my mom and my dad and my siblings for that matter. And at the same time, me and my parents had challenges in our relationships that informed the way I wanted to show up as a parent that I didn't think could have been fixed if it was another person. Like for me, even in my single parenthood, I probably could have created a situation where my son's biological father was more active, but I felt like I was going to integrate my child into a house that was already on fire. And I believe that people can only give in as much as they have given to themselves. And my job also as a parent was to recognize that this person was not well and was not going to be able to create wellness for my child. So I think I was just very intentional about that. And again, choosing to do this thing completely by myself. I didn't have the luxury of not being a friend. Like I feel like my dad is the nice one and my mom is the warden. And that created a lot of challenges for me and my mom's relationship. And we had to grow through that. And I'm like, you were parenting me in a way that I didn't need. I actually needed a hug. I actually needed acknowledgement. Just because I was okay and I was doing well, and you had to focus on my little brother and you didn't have to worry about me, didn't mean that I didn't need the emotional portion of that. But I think again, back to the way I think there is something in regards to the gender, because my mom looks at my brothers as children, but she looks at me and sees herself. So she parents me the way she parents herself. My mother looks at me and she sees a no limit soldier. Okay. Because that's how she treats herself. And she looks at my brothers and she like, my son, my son. And I'm like, girl, you don't think you know what I mean? So I think it just has a lot to do with what you're giving your child what you needed in some way, shape, or form. While also balancing the things that maybe aren't coming as natural to you, like the friendship, like the whatever. To your point, John, I said see you in 10 years because I was thinking about my best friend's relationship with her father, who, like I said, is at the bar with us outside. He's at the concert. He went to the Chris Brown concert with her. We were at Bullpen with Ab. Like, yeah, let's. Whereas her mom kind of has her own friend group and we do dinners. I work in entertainment. So no, I'm not going to the NBA YoungBoy concert with you. But yes, you can come on the HBCU tour with me. And that is also fun, right? I think I had Brandon to my son at homecoming. Like, my son will go outside with you now. Okay. He's gonna be a good time. But outside doesn't look like the club, the this, the that. But he's not there. He's not 21 yet. So we'll see. I'll come back and let y'all know.
Yeah. But even
V,
like,
I think you see. Oh, I'm sorry. You.
no, go ahead.
Either one.
V, I think you touched on something very briefly and very slightly there, and it's so much of parenting is taking care of yourself first, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're not emotionally controlled in situations where we need to be in control, then we're not able to parent correctly. And John, I'm even thinking back to, and I'm not knocking Mama Dukes there at all, but thinking back to where your mother was like, "Hey, come see me," and then you're like, "All right," and then she was like, "Whoa," right? So if we're gonna provide that space for our children, then we ourselves need to be able to enter that space in a calm and a controlled way as well. And that self-work, that's the most difficult thing right there. Diving deep in and seeing, where are my faults?
Parenting is all about yourself.
Yeah, dusting off
it's
the
about
mirror,
you.
choking on the dust, all that stuff. And it's dirty work. And then you're able to then, really reach your kids on a different level, because then they're more comfortable coming to you with certain things. Like, oh, I know if I come to Dad, he's going to give me a speech. He might be upset, but he's not going to blow up at me. And that's my goal for my children.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the one thing that we have a heads up on from our parents is that it's more acceptable to be healed in our younger children. Because I know hearing stories from my mom, and my mom, like I said, she grew up in a 2-parent household, but her mom, my grandmother, very strict. But my grandfather was the type of man where he didn't have to raise his voice. Like she would tell me stories that she never heard my grandmother and grandfather argue. He said what he had to say and got it done. But then how did that come down to me, where I felt like I couldn't share myself with my mom because she was a middle child. She had these insecurities and traumas with her. So it kind of leaked down. But the one thing that I'm grateful for having is, number one, way better health insurance than they had back then.
So we can all go see the lady. We all go see the lady and unpack.
Yeah. Mental health care. I have broken down those generational curses where not, what goes on in your home stays in your home. No, I have friends that I can talk to and I don't feel judged about talking about. So I have these avenues where it releases this trauma where I'm able to show up for my child in the way that he needs. So it's funny because my son is very much an introvert. I am very extroverted. I am the mom that when I had my son, I was pregnant. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. We're going to have birthdays, all of these things, right? And by his 3rd birthday, I realized that he does not like being around people. He does not like being the center of attention. And when I tell you, I was devastated because I know there probably won't be a prom. Those things that I was looking forward to because of the person that I am. And my son is just definitely not, who I am. So I have to work with the type of person he is, the emotional control that I'm building on myself and giving that to him, because now he's opening up more. It was a time where my son would come in the house, he'll go straight to his room and close his door. And never have I made my home feel like you have to go to your room. That's just because he know I be on that bullshit. As soon as he get in the house, I'm in his face I'm yapping. And he's like, girl, I've been at school for 8 hours talking. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, he's overstimulated.
So we have the luxury, speaking of luxuries, we have the luxury of having all of those things for us, and imagine what our children are having now too, as well, to give their children if they choose so to do that. Just like I said, thinking about my mom and her, I was doing her makeup for a cousin's wedding, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh my goodness, like she's aging. And then we're having a conversation and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just a girl. I'm just a girl. Just a girl. And she's just a girl that didn't get the didn't get this, social media where she could go and vent, didn't get the blog pages that she could create or a website, didn't get those friendships because things were just different back then. So I do feel like I agree to an extent, but I think me and John, we here. We're on those levels.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the only time my kids and I are hanging out is if they picking me up from the bar, because I'm trying to get them to drive now.
Yeah, I think that V has said something about, because even down to knowing, like for me, it was very important for me to see God's face when it came to raising all my children, even down to my nephew, right? What are these children what's their purpose here? Why are they called to be here and stuff like that? And God, what do you want me to do to make sure that they get to where you've called them to be, right? Because they're just a blessing that God allowed me to manage, and I've had to, like my oldest son, I was against I didn't want to, because my mom, that's how she disciplined me, right? She beat me all the time. So my son, like, yeah, I'm never going to discipline. I'm not going to pop him, and nobody better not put their hands on him. I'm shielding over him. And my mother's like, and you have to be careful about what people say about your children, right? Yeah. Because when you're in the thick of things, people have their opinions about it, but they don't know what's going on behind the closed doors. So with my son, I was, against it. I talked to him a lot. And then I remember his dad was like, man, you're gonna have to pop him, man, because he was a baby, and he was going in the corner, and he was pooping like a dog in the corner for like the pot. And I was like, no, he's not gonna get popped because he's been potty trained. You better not hit my baby. He did it again, and he was like, he kept on doing it. And so then he was like, can you just try it? Like, I'm not telling you to kill the boy. I just said pop him so he know it's a no, right? So I popped him. And, my heart was just so broken, but he never did it again, right? So I was like, oh, okay, cool. But again, it wasn't a thing that was like, I wasn't consistent with popping him. Like, even when he had issues when his dad and I broke up, he had issues in school. Like his dad actually went to prison. And when his dad went to prison, he started like acting out in school. He was having a hard time with men. And, I was going back and forth with him, talking to him about, like why I wasn't right, just having those conversations. Whereas my second born, my middle child, like he knuckled you buck. Like he played football. He was looking at me like, look, when he get angry, I'm looking at him like, nah, that's not happening over here. But with my oldest son, when he got to the point, the video game got him. So one day he like jumps in my face and he was talking to me. Like I said, they can have conversations with me. So he's talking to me like, Mom, sometimes I feel like I want to hit you. So I was like, it just shocked me, because again, it's conversations that he was in therapy and all that, Matter of fact, the one thing I'll tell people too, like find out what works for your kids, because with my oldest child, I put him, he was doing horseback riding. Saved my life, okay? Saved my life. But everybody was telling me, you got him in, his dad too. You got him in horseback riding? That ain't no sport for a little boy. And I'm like, okay, well, it's working for me, so I'm going to keep on doing it. But the Holy Spirit told me to go do that. Holy Spirit provided the money for me to do it too, But when he got old enough and he went through another, when he was going to puberty, he was playing a video game. I told him to clean up his room, and he got upset about it. Having them conversations where they think they grown and they don't have to go to school no more. He was walking out the house, and the police officer came to the house, and because I would just get on the phone because I wasn't going to hit him, and he was getting, I'm gonna be honest, he was getting bigger, like he was older, and you can't spank him, how am I gonna spank him? Turn over. I'm not turning over, Mom. He's not being spanked. So the officer, I'm just calling the police. I'm like, hey, he just left the house again. And so the officer, he came in, he said, look, we know the difference in a parent that's abusing their child, and we know the difference in a child that needs to be raised. Do you want us to raise him, or do you want to raise him? And I sat there for a minute. I was like, no, you not nobody. No, you don't have to raise him. I was like, but how am I going to do this? you know. And so going back off what V was saying, even Vonda, just knowing what your child needs, you know, and a lot of people let society make them feel bad about what they have to do to get their kid. But if your kid don't get to where they society thinks they need to be at, they're gonna judge you on that too, you know. So you just really have to be in a space where you seek whatever, you know, whatever you need, whatever guidance you need to get them to the next point. That's what you need to seek, and it's not a comparison thing out here. You know, everybody's different. We all, you know, the times we live in, everything has to be handled in a different way. It's one kid where you're gonna be way closer to them. You know what I'm saying? Just like my oldest son, we've been in the trenches together. You know, I've gone through everything in my life with him, so he understands me in a different way. Whereas my other children, my son will always say they came and ruined his life, right? Because he was spoiled, and you know, he had everything. I went from him living in a 2-parent home to him getting everything he wanted to me becoming a mother of 3 children with no daddy in the house, and the money got tight. He's like, what happened here? Send them back, you know. But it's, you know, it's taught them. And like I said, you know, I feel like every child is different. Like my daughter, a lot of women compliment me on the conversations my daughter can have with me, or like how safe she feels and how free she is, you know. Because at that age, a lot of young girls, especially, you know, when we was growing up, it was certain things you weren't able to do. Like I know my daughter likes to get her nails done. She cares for herself. She's a very prissy girl, and I didn't have that experience. You know, I was knuck if you buck. You know, but she's a different way. She's you know, she likes to get her nails done. She's mindful of how she shows up and what's being done to her, and she speaks out on it. You know, but that comes from that self space, and I think it was a saying where they used to say that you raise your daughters and you love mothers raise their daughters and they love their sons. And so, you know, I just feel like all of them should be loved, and you have to put those things in place. Like I said, now that we're having this conversation, I don't think that I'm their friend. I'm always their mother. You know what I'm saying? I'm always their mother, but what's a relationship? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a healthy relationship. And what does a healthy relationship entail? You know, it's going to be safe spaces. It's going to be, you know, love in the midst of it. You know, it has to be a place where they trust you. But I'm sorry, I don't even think that I would be able to sit in the room with them I can sit in the room with them with their friends and feel okay, because their friends, a lot of my children's friends I'm their safe place too. Because we live in DC, you know, and so the dynamics are a lot like to them we're great, and I'm over here like, no, we need some things over here. But the school system there and stuff like that, a lot of the kids don't have parents, they live on where other family members and stuff like that. So it's a safe space. But I think that, like I said, it's just the seasons, you know, that you go through when you're parenting, you know, where at one point I had to tell my son, no, you can't do this. This is why you can't do it. And when you do this, this is the result of it, and you have to be disciplined. But then when he got old enough, now I don't have to tell him. You know, he knows what's expected of him. He knows how to act in a room, and he can tell me, you know, oh, I slipped up and did this, you know, but I fixed it. This is how I fixed it, you know. So it's expectations. It's like I said, I just feel like in a friendship, what do you expect from your friends? That's what you expect from your kids. So that's why I think I think that eventually you do have a friendship with your children, but it's still, in every situation, it's still boundaries and still things that you have to be held accountable for.
All right, so I appreciate that, T. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that was very helpful for a lot of people viewing. I want to give you a night back, so I want to end with a question. We can go around, everybody can give their perspective. People that's watching that may be struggling with it, they don't know how to like strike that balance. They don't know what, you know, maybe they lean too heavily on one side, and they need to figure out like, how do I get somewhere where like I'm still the person that my kids respect, but there's also a space where they can feel comfortable to share things with me that, you know, maybe ordinarily wouldn't happen. So I don't know which direction y'all want to go in. Anybody want to start, and then we go in a circle.
I think I can start just so that way you all can have the last word as the guests. I just want to say thanks, Ab, and another great conversation. I really just loved hearing all of you all's perspectives. And, even John is a single dad. My brother's a single dad. He got 4 kids, 3 girls and a little boy. And so, shout out to all the single dads. I just think it's like really beautiful to have a space for parents just talking about that, particularly younger parents. Like we, oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah, we're still young. And I think that this is super important. I think for me, the balance is always among my male friends. You were saying too how you get a lot of compliments from women on your daughter. My male friends always compliment me.
Yeah. Yep. She probably got a call. But I agree with what she's saying, right? She's talking about her male friends always compliment her on her son. I think that's where she was going with it. And she's 100% right? Like I'm one of those people that she's talking about. Her son is an exceptional young man, and she did a fantastic job with him.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I don't know what she did, right? Like how she went through that process, but it could be, maybe that's just the compliment or whatever it is. But like, me seeing her, work her way through, that process, and him now here in college, he's going to my alma mater, and you know what I mean, me him as an older young man, I can see, how well of a job that she did with it. But anybody else can jump in as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So, first of all, again, thank you for having me on the show. This was great to share my experience and just talk amongst parents. I also wanted to show my appreciation to John because my kids' father, the older kids, he got full custody of them, full sole legal custody of them. He battled it out and he did what he felt was right for his sons. And a lot of people, especially online, you don't hear about those success stories. People tend to like bash and talk negatively about that experience, but it's always great to see other men in those roles of the sole, I guess the custodial parent. But for me, what balance is, and I think this is for any relationship that you have in your life, it is boundaries and clear communication. Talking to your kids, getting to know them as people, understanding what they look at as values, what their interests are. Don't just look at them as kids or possessions or things that are yours. You know what I mean? Like I said, kids are human beings. They're just learning things a little bit later than we have, with a little bit more technology than we had. Shout out to Encyclopedia Britannica had all of them. They got a little bit easier. But like I said, the balance in any relationship is clear communication, honesty, and having those boundaries, and allow your kids to have boundaries as well.
Yeah, boundaries, and clear communication, key.
I can go next. Well, I'm at the beginning stages of this. Y'all are a little more advanced than me. But one of the things that I really emphasize is setting a strong foundation so I don't have to do so much work later on. I mean, I know it's a constant thing that I'm going to have to be on top of. And as V said, parenting is a very, very personal job. I think you said, did you say personal?
It's an extreme sport.
It's all of those things, right? And you should take it personally. You really should, because it allows you to reflect and change and adapt to different situations. But yeah, it's building a foundation where I'm just instilling certain things into my girls at this age so that I have that balance later on in life. So, if I'm doing certain things with my friends, yeah, they're involved, but they're not involved when we're doing other things. So there's no blurring of lines when those things occur. If daddy's going out of town, daddy's going out of town with daddy's just going out of town. I don't need to explain to you why I'm going out of town. I'm just going out of town. And then we're going to have those moments where, where it's just me, you, and your sister, and we're doing things that way. But just setting a strong foundation, and it beautifully said there, clear consistent, concise communication. I think many of us, I'm throwing myself in the boat here too, we just struggle with communication. We think we're great communicators, but we're actually not, because we don't take time to listen. And really listening to our children can go a long way to setting certain boundaries for them and for us.
Bingo.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I got cut out because my son was FaceTiming me, despite me saying he was FaceTiming me on the computer, on the phone, he don't care. Despite me sending out a text saying, don't call me on the computer. But I think what I was saying was, I'm very grateful for the relationship I have with my son. He was FaceTiming me with all his friends like he does every week. So even his friends will like call me and FaceTime me. They want advice with their parents. But I think the balance, I always call it like the overplay for the underplay. There's going to be times where you got to go hard. Like you said, Ab, you may told them to come to you, but they say something that's just, it's too wild to not react like a mama. And then you got to reel it in. And sometimes when they tell you the most outrageous thing, you got to be like, oh, wow. So what did you do? You play that very like listening role, despite you crumbling inside at what they're experiencing. I think the balance is just knowing that like we are their parents, but we can't live their lives. And you have to parent in a way where they can actually live by themselves, independently of you, without your guidance one day. I would love to still parent my son. I would love to make sure he's in class on time at Morgan State, where I'm paying $33,000 a year. Get up, get your behind the class, do what you're supposed to do, go to your internship, check in with your advisor. Like, I would love to still parent him that way, but I cannot. And one day, the way that you are parenting now, you will no longer be able to. And so I think the balance is pivoting when you see the need to pivot and not sticking to one way all the time, and recognizing what your child needs in that moment. And just being able, people can only meet people in as much as deeply as they themselves. And so if you are not constantly being introspective, constantly taking inventory of where you're at, how you're responding, what you need, then you're not going to be able to give that to you out.
For me, I agree with all you guys. The balance for me was being able to adapt and knowing that it was okay to have to go a different way, like you said, pivot. Understanding that I had the balance came in with me with all of those things, being honest with myself, having my boundaries in place, having, integrity, and knowing, in any season where I wanted to show up as, I had to have a checklist for myself. Okay, cool. I'm in this season where now I'm a single mother. I still want my children to have what they need. So I'm going to always have to work hard, whether I'm whether I have a partner or not, I'm going to have to work hard, So I just had values for myself, and I have values for them. Like you guys were saying, like just the foundation, but also the balance came in for me, it came in when I realized that it's okay to have to come up with another game plan. Nobody's perfect. It's okay if the season has to switch out. If you have to go to a different place, make it safe for y'all, I always say that my home is their safe haven, so when we go into our house, no matter where we are, make sure they know that this is a safe place. Mistakes are going to happen in the world. We have a different plan for our lives, and sometimes it just don't work out like that, but make it where it's comfortable. I've had to find joy in everything, and to be grateful for everything that I'm going through. I had to find out why I was going through it and make it make sense for me, if that makes sense, I also always want to say, I met you just off a post, but you already know, like, I'm deep in with you when it comes to just what you're doing in the community. I always tell you, I'll say it for everybody, that I just pray that the Lord continues to make a way for this to be, for it to continue to be a thing, because this is what we need, because there's so many people fighting battles and trying to figure this thing out, because parenting, it doesn't come, it's manuals out here, but every child is different. Like we were just talking about the beating thing, it's some kids you don't have to beat. It's one child you might got to put your knee in his neck. It don't make you wrong to get them to the next point. You know what I mean? Like it don't make, but when it's done out of love, I think that's the balance too, making sure love is in the midst of it, and when love is in the midst of it, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with it. The Bible says that love conquers all, and so I think that's the balance with me. That's how it ended. Like just saying that's the balance with me. Understanding when I'm looking at something from a perspective where it's a me thing, I got to always check myself and make sure that I'm making sure love is in the midst of it. Am I judging them, or am I guiding them on the best advice I can give them? Am I making sure that I'm not making them continue to live mistakes they've made, or are they really forgiven for those mistakes? So that's how I keep the balance in the midst. It's boundaries with respect all the way around, as respecting each other, and also letting you live, but making sure that with living, you got to make sure that you're doing the right things, in this world, because you will reap what you sow,
100%. Tiara, thank you for that love. I do seriously appreciate that. I couldn't have asked for a better panel tonight, guys. Y'all did a fantastic job. I appreciate y'all again for coming to give me your time and being open and honest. Hopefully I will see all of you guys again sooner than later. But again, this is Man in the Middle, episode 6. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube and just follow the journey, man. We appreciate y'all, and we out of here, guys.